Welcome to the One Community Local Leaders podcast, and I'm Matt Scarborough, cyclist and lawyer from Bicycle Accident Law.
And I'm Leo Brasino, special education teacher and swim coach.
In our podcast, we'll be featuring leaders throughout the area, and we want to know what makes them tick. So do us a favor, subscribe, listen, share, and we're going to grow this thing together.
Today's episode features Coral Owen.
I'm Matt Scarborough with One Community Local Hero podcast, and we're pleased to have the world famous Coral Owen here with us today. And I appreciate you being here, Coral.
Thanks for having me, Matt. I appreciate the opportunity.
No problem. Most of the local community I know knows Coral as the original badass, right? And mother extraordinaire, coach, and now race director. And we are very, very happy to be a little bit of a part of your upcoming triathlon. So, well, start us out with that. Tell us about that, if you don't mind, the triathlon that you got coming up in December.
Absolutely. First off, I'm so excited to have y'all involved, and thank you for the support for this inaugural event. So, we're doing the Tampa Bay Babes Triathlon on December 17th down at Fort DeSoto. It's a all-women's sprint triathlon. It's a quarter-mile swim, 10-mile closed to traffic bike course, fast and flat, and then a beautiful 5K along the really, it's just coastal, picturesque Florida nature down there. So we're excited. We're hoping to have about 500 athletes.
500.
I know, it's wild. We're well on our way to meeting those numbers, but it's something that's been in the works for quite some time. I've been dreaming about that for, I would say, better part of 4 or 5 years. I don't know if we should go into the backstory about why this particular event is, going to be iconic for this area.
I think it would be great to kind of find out a little bit of the backstory of that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so, Tampa Bay actually has a really rich history of women's triathlon. Back in early 2000s, we had I think it was the Reebok or Danskin Women's Triathlon in St. Petersburg. That's actually where I got my start in triathlon 20 years ago.
Okay.
Not to date myself, but
Right.
I was in high school at the time and raced that event with my mom, and it was a transformative experience for me at the time, never having pictured myself entering triathlon or having the capacity to do that. So fast forward, about 10 years later, the Lycra and Lace Women's Triathlon had a great run, think of about 6 or 7 years. And since that race shuttered about 5 years ago, there's really not been an opportunity locally in Tampa Bay to highlight this wonderful race venue that we have, and also to provide this, what I think is a really powerful experience for women to come together and race together. So I'm so excited that we finally have all the players in place and the right venue and the right time to bring this to life.
That's wonderful. Who all's involved in it?
So I'm so thrilled. We've got a great local powerhouse sponsorship team. Heather Kugno of Pioneer Homegirls. It's an all-women's mortgage brokerage firm here in Tampa.
Oh, wow.
They are our title sponsor, so we're so excited to have them on board, of course, y'all, with Bicycle Accident Law. And then to round out our trifecta of top-tier sponsors is Mike and Lori Dunlap and Dunlap of Watermark Realty.
They go the distance.
They do go the distance. So Heather herself of Pioneer Homegirls, she is a kick-ass cyclist. Can I use that word?
Of course.
On the podcast.
Whatever word you want.
So
I think we've already said ass once. So
yeah,
I'll say
probably.
Yeah.
But I know Heather through the cycling community, and she's a huge proponent of women's cycling in general and triathlon. And then of course Mike and Lori are just wonderful triathletes in their own right, and so embedded in the triathlon community. And so it's just it all fits together, and really excited to also have Best Damn Events producing the race for us.
Who are they? I'm not real familiar with them.
So Nick Zivelit is the head. A lot of folks will probably know them through Best Damn Race or BDR.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah. So just the absolute most top-notch event production team that you could summon.
I don't really, I've known you for a couple years, and most of the time when I see you, we are crossing paths from various forms of torture, from Garrett's garage, Garrett McCoy, somebody that both of us work out with. So, but I want to know, like, how did this all start for you? How did Coral become this triathlon coach, triathlete, and now race director? You mentioned earlier that you were 14 when you did this race with your mom, but how even before then, like, how did you get involved in doing all this?
If you were to know me 20 years ago, this would be a very unlikely trajectory probably. So I, started in the early 90s going to watch my folks race here in the Tampa Bay area. The Mad Dogs were big on the scene, and just really appreciated observing at a distance. As a swimmer, running was definitely not my forte. But enter this race opportunity in St. Pete in 2003. It seemed approachable. It was a super sprint distance, so not a huge bite to digest, if you will. Did that, and it just lit this spark because it was different from swimming. Head down, grind it out. Just this camaraderie, the joy of seeing other people reach and do things that they may not have seen possible for themselves. That, I don't know, there's just something about it that really kind of sucked me into triathlon. And so I raced peripherally through college or through high school age group, and then when I graduated in 2007, I was at the University of Florida for both my undergrad and graduate experiences. The oldest triathlon team, Collegiate Tri Club, in the state of Florida is there, the TriGators.
So UF, okay.
Yeah, so I was able to race collegiate club there for about 4.5 years.
Go Gators.
Go Gators. And then took a little bit of a break, moved overseas for a little bit, got into long course racing over there. And when I moved back to the States in 2015, I decided I had done some, kind of loosely organized coaching in college, helping out with the tri club and whatnot. Really enjoyed it. I've always loved working with swimmers. That's kind of my bread and butter. That's my background. And yeah, when we moved back to the States in 2015, I was living in Illinois at the time, decided to get my triathlon coaching certification, and was coaching a really small group of gals. Back then it was called the Ohana. And fast forward about 5 years ago, Team Babe came into existence, and it's just grown like I could not have even imagined since then. So, with all of this momentum and whatnot, it just felt like a really good opportunity and a good time to, provide our own racing experience and sort of give the broader community a taste of the Babe philosophy and camaraderie.
Yeah, I wanted to talk to you about that, and I knew there was a reason that I liked you. It was because we had the Gator connection.
Ah, okay.
I did not go to school there, but my mom and dad were in the married dorms, and then I came along as a surprise.
Oh.
Their first year of school. So I was actually born in Gainesville.
Oh, good.
I went to all the games when I was a kid, and so.
How fun.
And then my dad gave me a hard time about not going to school there, of course, and going to University of Miami. But that's aside. The Team Babe philosophy. Talk to me a little bit about that, because I love how inclusive you are with all your athletes and all your people, and I think that's what endurance sports needs. I think it just needs to get everyone encouraged to start, and who cares where you finish? The fact that you're there and you're trying, and I think it's amazing, and we need more of that in this community. So if you don't mind, what is your vision of that? How do you get people involved? Especially with women, how do you break that barrier for them to say, come try something?
Yeah, absolutely. So BABE is an acronym. It stands for Be a Badass Every Day. And the way I like to unpack that, if you will, is be a badass every day. It's about showing up as your best self for yourself, whatever that looks like on any given day. And so whether you're a 20-something at the pointy end of the race looking to qualify for Kona, which is our Ironman World Championship, or you're in your mid-60s and you've just learned how to swim in the past couple of years, maybe I can do a triathlon. There is space for everyone at either end of that spectrum, everywhere in between, to find community, to find courage, and to find capacity within themselves to do hard things. and to find support at a high level, whether it be coaching, resources, community, or sisterhood, to feel supported on their journey to chasing whatever impossible it is. And so I think, you know, we're on to something special. I wish it weren't so novel, this experience of inclusion of all paces, all backgrounds, all body types, all ages. But I think it's something that triathlon was sort of lacking when I entered the sport, you know, a couple decades ago. It was, you know, kind of a tough nut to crack into. And a lot of it was really reserved, or felt reserved, for folks that were, you know, more athletic or trim or looked a certain way.
Right.
But I think I've had a couple transformative experiences. One being racing collegiate club at UF. We had a wonderful set of coaches, and we would teach people how to swim, and they would do their first triathlon with us. We also had folks on the same team racing the same courses that went on and still to this day race professionally, and that's how they make their living. But there was always this dynamic of camaraderie, of, you know, team, of friendship that was the foundation of everything that we did together, whether it was racing or getting pizza after
Right.
Friday night swims.
Right.
So that was really pivotal. And then, you know, having the privilege of watching my mom race in her 30s, but also into her early 60s. My mom's on Team Babe. You know, she's in her late 60s now, and she still swims, bikes, and runs on a daily, weekly basis. And so to see how triathlon can serve you in many different seasons of life, both as a hobby, a pastime, or a performance goal, but also just as a lifestyle that gets you outside, gets you with friends, gets you with community, in an intentional movement sort of way, that has really opened my eyes to what triathlon can be. And so to provide a space where people can pick any sort of iteration that they want to follow and embody, has really, that's kind of underscored why we do what we do. And we've only grown. We don't market the team to grow. It's all word of mouth. And so I think that's a big key. That's probably like the third factor of why we exist the way that we do.
Right.
Is it's, you know, not just casting a wide net and hoping people show up. It's, you know, one person saying to their friend who, you know, maybe was run curious, I think you can do a triathlon. Hey, come do this relay with me. Hey, I met this really awesome group of people that ride bikes on the weekends. You should come with your hybrid bike. Well, you know, you can keep up with us. And so that inclusion, it's just built into, it's almost this unspoken rule. It's just what we do.
That's wonderful. Are most of the people you're getting now brand new people?
We've seen it. You know, it surprises me continuously week over week. You know, one of the predominant spaces that Team Babe exists in is we've got a private closed Facebook community that anybody can join for free. There's no cost, and we see like probably 3 to 10 people join every single week. I don't know where most of them come from,
Right.
but we've seen a lot of beginners, and I think part of it at the, you know, current season is tied to the race opportunity. We've had a lot of people hop in that, hey, I just signed up for the Babes Triathlon. How do I get started? Do I need special gear? And so just having that hub where they can come, you know, ask questions and, you know, not have a fear of being laughed at or, you know, ridiculed for asking what some people might call silly questions in other forums.
Right.
I'm glad that we can be that space for people.
So you obviously have a forum for them. And do you have any training available for these newer folks?
Yeah, so what I like to say is we kind of have like an a la carte. You know, you can choose your own adventure basically, right? So
Okay.
you can hop in for virtual community if you're not local to Tampa Bay. We also do one-to-one coaching, so I carry a roster of athletes that I work with to develop training plans and interface with on a much more personal level. Amy Anderson is also our community manager for Team Babe. She leads weekend meetups, just super low-key community training in person. She also coaches some athletes as well. And then we have stock training plans if people are a little bit more
I guess it's a junior high, high school. How did that
Yeah,
start?
so I mean, I grew up on the beach, that little south of here in Venice. So swimming, surfing, that was pretty much all there was to do on the island back then. You know, in the early 90s. So just kind of got started with water sports in that way, and was on swim team. Wouldn't say I was highly competitive, but it definitely was a predominant theme in my life through high school.
Right.
And then ticked over to triathlon and collegiate club, and it's kind of where we're at today.
Do you have a favorite event, or you kind of like all of them?
I like them all for different reasons.
Okay.
You know, it's fun to do things that you're proficient at.
Mhm.
So, you know, for swimming, just being in the water, that's a really grounding experience for me, especially at this point. So that's just kind of my kickback, recharge sort of training, or just enjoyment of moving, etc. The run, as a swimmer coming into running, has continued to be a challenge.
Right.
That I try to just chip away at, move the needle on. So I appreciate the challenge that it brings. It is very confronting at times, but I appreciate it for that as I've gotten older. And then cycling, it's just fun to be out and ride your bike with friends and push the gas pedal a little bit. So yeah.
I did one triathlon in my life, and the swim almost killed me, so
Oh boy.
that's why I've stayed. I would ride a bike, but swimming has been really tough for me, so I didn't know if you were one of those people that there was one sport you're like, oh, no.
More balanced.
More balanced. Okay, very good. So I know that a lot of people in the area know that you're like one of the most famous mothers
Oh boy.
that we've got, because your baby Kai is beautiful and amazing and sweet.
You.
So how I want to know, because I have a daughter myself, and you're so active, and you're active while you were pregnant, and still so active. How did you maintain all of that? How are you doing it now?
With a ton of support and a lot of grace.
Yeah.
So I am so fortunate that my folks are so supportive. Kai's papa, Leo, is incredibly supportive. Having examples of people that, you know, I think there's a shifting narrative around active pregnancy. So, you know, it's more encouraged. You know, 30, even 20 years ago, it was a bit more taboo. You know, don't
Right.
don't overdo yourself. A little bit different approach than some other folks I know. I actually did race a triathlon, sprint triathlon in 19 weeks, just for fun, nothing wild, just to have that experience, especially coaching predominantly women.
That's cool. You did that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It was a neat experience, and it, you know, having a different focus, a different orientation around racing, just for the appreciation of what your body can do,
Right.
while it's busy doing, like, growing a human. That was a really empowering experience, and probably one of the finishes I'm most proud of. But really also from just a learning experience of what does an active pregnancy feel like in one way.
Right.
You know, being able to speak from experience to what that could look like for someone that is cleared for movement or training during pregnancy. I'm really glad I'm able to pass that on to my athletes. But I really shifted to a predominantly strength training focus. You know Garrett well.
Yes.
Worked with Garrett throughout my pregnancy and trained pretty regularly up to about 38 weeks. I think that set me up. For me, it was a good fit. So I swam a little bit, definitely didn't run, but it set me up for a good recovery after having a C-section. But also appreciating, you know, postpartum, it gave me a lot of appreciation for the process of rebuilding. And I had a strong foundation, but also I wasn't cleared to run for 12 weeks. So I was actually just talking to somebody on the team about this afternoon. What does that look like to go from no running for almost a year to, okay, like, can we run a minute?
Right.
Can you build it to 5 minutes?
Mm-hmm.
How do you take that at a sustainable pace where you're not overdoing it and, you know, causing some setbacks for yourself? And so, yeah, very humbling experience. But I think also working within, you know, like, how do we make it happen? Just keeping it fun, surrounding myself with community. I've got some friends that I meet at the beach occasionally in the mornings to like run. Kyle hang out with us, Papa while he's coaching, and or hang out with my folks while they're enjoying the beach.
Sure.
So building fitness into my life and not trying to square peg round hole has also been a good framework to utilize. So.
Wow, what a great example. You've got to beat all your people. I mean, seriously, it's really incredible. I saw it myself, but I didn't see all the things that you've done and are doing now. I think it's really inspirational.
Thank you.
So congratulations.
Thanks. It looks different for everybody.
Yeah.
But I think when we're kind to ourselves and give ourselves permission to do things a little bit differently, like, I'm not racing triathlon right now, but I'm training for a 5K. The first person outside my family that's training for a 5K versus like trying to do a half Ironman right now. Like,
right.
That's attainable, but it keeps me active. It keeps me engaged.
How do you deal with the hard charger triathletes that are like, I want the result now. I want to have a career. I want to have a family. I want the result. I want it all now. How do you coach them on that?
That is a great question. So, I think one of the biggest misconceptions about coaching is that I'm the one pushing. When you're around a lot of triathletes, Matt, it's these are, as one friend has termed it, type AA personalities.
Right.
Very high achieving, very driven, very goal oriented folks who really have no problem doing the work. So how can we create space for intentional rest, for sleep, for recharging, so you're not just burning the candle at both ends? So that's the biggest dial that we try to turn with getting it all done and really going for some of these big goals while also maintaining presence and priority with the other things these folks have going on. The other key thing is no junk. So every session has a purpose, whether it's a long ride, whether it's a tempo run, or an easy day. Treating those all with the same care and purpose and energy is really important, but there's no fluff. I've had a couple athletes that have recently come on to my coaching roster that they look at these plans that we're crafting on a week over week basis and they're going, I'm not seeing the volume, and they get a little concerned. But it's wild when you stack consistency with rest, day over day, week over week, month over month. There's a sustainability there. Folks don't get burnt out. They're showing up better in other areas of their life while still maintaining the progress and momentum at a much more sustainable pace in their athletic lives as well. And so I think there's a trickle effect where it kind of permeates across all things that these folks are doing, where by making the athletic stuff more sustainable, you can kind of bring and maintain your focus and attention on the other things that we prioritize as well, because nobody's getting a paycheck for being an age group triathlete.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I wondered how you did that because my minimal foray into triathlon, there was just at one time I was way more type A than I am now, and a lot of super type A people involved, and not all of them are still doing it. I know that for sure.
The burnout rates are high. Yeah.
They're pretty rough. Well, us being a cycling law firm, of course, we're interested in riding and cycling. Tell me a little bit about how you do that with Team Babe. What are your workouts? Where do y'all try to ride? What do you personally do as far as riding?
Yeah, so I mean, I myself am not riding much at the moment, but you know, we're, like I said, we're so fortunate to have Amy Anderson as our community manager at the moment.
Okay.
And so Amy, we do just training meetups. You can probably appreciate this. We don't do road rides. Just safety is number one. And with beginning riders, finding pedestrian trails that are bike friendly is really what we found to be the best solution for all of our cyclists. Just, you know, we can also stay grouped together and keep an eye out for one another.
I didn't realize that. That's wonderful.
A lot more regularly. Yeah, thank you. So some favorite haunts, if you will. Flatwoods Park is great, especially if we're doing some, you know, tempo work.
Sure.
No interruptions in the trail. Suncoast Parkway also. Occasionally we'll venture out to Withlacoochee if we're looking for a little bit of an adventure.
Okay.
So, but yeah, that's about it.
Okay. Yeah, those are great spots. I did the Suncoast myself this weekend.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Do you have any other favorites?
I like Pinellas to Starkey. That's a hike and a fun one. Suncoast is probably my favorite now, from like county line up north. I did 60 on Sunday.
Nice.
Not to pat myself on the back, just because it's fun and easy, and just a lot of space there without worried about getting hit.
Totally.
Honestly, which
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of anymore, or ever. Ever, I should say. But you know, I'm sure you have, and I have had many close calls, and no thank you.
Yeah.
No,
I'm with you on that.
not good. So how many athletes do you think you're going to be having for your triathlon in December?
We're on track to hit our max cap of 500 athletes.
How do you, okay, trying to wrap my head around that.
Yeah.
How are you going to manage 500? Probably a lot of them new triathletes at Fort DeSoto. Like, how does that look?
So, as I mentioned, we have the top tier race production team, Best Damn Events.
Right.
Just, they're incredibly organized. Athletes are going to have all of their information ahead of time. We've got packet pickup in the week leading up. So you don't have to get there race morning and go, okay, where's my packet? What do I do with the numbers? So, you know, one of the things that is setting this triathlon experience apart, and I'm not saying that other tries don't do this, but what we hope that athletes will find in the weeks leading up to the Tampa Bay Babes Tri is that they're getting access to, you know, ask questions about race day, what to expect. They're getting information in, you know, pretty regular email updates for registered athletes, very clear-cut information about the layout, how to set up their transition, because we do anticipate a lot of newbies and rookies. So going in informed helps set you up for the best race day possible. So that's what we're looking at.
That's amazing. And for people that, you know, are just kind of hearing about it now for the first time, if they want to sign up, how would they do that?
Yeah, so it's on Run Sign Up. If you just do a Google search for Tampa Bay Babes Triathlon or Tampa Bay Babes Tri, it should come right up. But if you're on the Run Sign Up page, that's the right place to be. And you can just sign up.
And how would people find out about you and your coaching?
So you can follow us on Facebook, Team Babe Athletics, or you can find us on Instagram at Team Babe Athletics, or you can just shoot me an email.
You mentioned community, you mentioned consistency, you mentioned courage. Which of those traits do you think that you rely upon most every day to do all the things that you're doing, Coral?
Can I pick a top two?
Sure.
I think the community that we have, you know, there are a lot of demands on my attention and my energy and my bandwidth. The community is what keeps me energized, keeps me passionate, and has kept me coming back to the sport for over 20 years. And, you know, so the community that we have enables me to be as consistent as I am. And I hope to show up for myself, for my family, for my athletes, and for our community as consistently as I possibly can, so they can go out and chase big dreams too.
Wonderful. I don't know of a better way to maybe wrap it up with that. Do you have anything else before we stop?
No, I just want to thank you again for the opportunity to chat with you today. This has been a lot of fun. And I'm so stoked to have you guys on board for December 17th.
Yeah, we are too. I can't wait to see what it looks like, and it's going to be an amazing event.
So excited.